So today we will start with SARFAESI Act. Now SARFAESI Act is one of the law which is for the financial institutions. This law is purely for the banks and the financial institutions. Also, if you see SARFAESI Act, this act came as an ordinance, which means it was passed by the cabinet and then later on it was approved by the parliament, right? So this act came as an ordinance, and the feature of this act is that these banks and the financial institutions, that is the secured creditor, can recover the dues without the intervention of court, right? Also, SARFAESI Act not just does the recover, it also provides for the securitization. We'll be studying about what is securitization, right? Then all the measures which are given in SARFAESI will be taken once the borrower account becomes NPA, once it becomes NPA. If the recovery cannot be done under SARFAESI, right, then in that case, DRT, the last resort is DRT. The person can go to, the secured creditor can go to DRT. But yes, it primarily empowers the banks and the financial institutions to take action against the borrower. To take action against the borrower. Who can be the borrower? The borrower can be any party, but the lender, the creditor will be who? The lender and the creditor will be the banks and the financial institutions. They will be a secured creditor. Now there's a myth that SARFAESI is only for the secured creditor. SARFAESI is also for the unsecured creditor. But yes, the measures under SARFAESI is very less for an unsecured creditor. Now, what is the full form of SARFAESI? So the name is not SARFAESI. This is the short form which is being used. SARFAESI, the full form is, so just understand there are three things which are here. One is SA, another is RAFA, and third is ESI. So SA is securitization and reconstruction of the financial assets and the enforcement of security interest. And trust me, these are the three areas of SARFAESI. So one is the securitization, another is the reconstruction of the financial asset, and the third one is the enforcement of security interest. So there are three activities. First activity which is being provided is the securitization activity, right? And the second activity which is there, this is called as the reconstruction of financial assets. And the third activity which we have is the enforcement of security interest. Now, because of this enforcement of security interest, it is called as a draconian law. It was rather tagged as a draconian law. That SARFAESI is one of the draconian law. It is very simple once the default takes place. So just see, okay, I'll give you that briefing little later. So securitization activity. Apart from that, SARFAESI Act also provided for the setting up of a company which is called as a asset reconstruction company, ARC, right? So this is the asset reconstruction company. So earlier this was called as securitization company and reconstruction company. So when the act was passed, earlier it was reconstruction company and securitization company, but now it is only asset reconstruction company. Got it? So this is all for the introduction of SARFAESI. We'll be covering a lot in this. So just see, it's a small act. If you see SARFAESI, you have chapter 1, which is preliminary. Again, section 1 applicability and the short title and the definition. Then you have chapter 2, which deals with the regulation of the securitization. and the reconstruction of the financial assets and the financial institutions. Then you have third chapter, which is for the enforcement of security interest. So your activity one, right? Your activity one and your activity two, and then you have your third activity. After that, you have some miscellaneous provisions. One is like the central registry. So this is just like how we have studied about the information utility and how you have studied about the charge in your Companies Act. So there is a central registrar who is going to maintain the central registry where all the information with respect to the securitization activity or the reconstruction of financial assets activity or the enforcement of security interest will be maintained. Then you have the registration by the secured creditor and other creditors, then the offenses and the penalties, and at last you have the miscellaneous provisions. There are total 42 sections in this act, and you also have some rules like for enforcement of security interest, you will have the ESI rules. Based on that, the securitization and the reconstruction activity is going to take place. So just understand this act, what is the logic, why this act was there. So we had studied that DRTs were set up, and DRTs were the specialized tribunal for dealing with the cases for the banks and the financial institutions. But due to DRT, where there were lot of pending cases, right? And that famous dialogue Tariq pe Tariq used to take place. Because of this reason, there was a need for a robust act which can ensure that the recovery is being done by the banks and the financial institutions without the intervention of any court, be it the DRT or the civil court, whatsoever the case may be. So there is no need. So now there was a need for a new law, and this need gave rise to the Sarfacy Act. So this is the Sarfacy Act 2002. But did Sarfacy Act work? Answer is no. If Sarfacy would have worked, we wouldn't have had IBC. Now, if you see Sarfacy Act, why Sarfacy Act could not work, right? I don't know whether this will be asked in the exam or not, but generally this is a curious question that if this is such a strong law, why IBC was there or why we still have the NPA crisis? Sarfacy did not work because of the political intervention. One was political intervention. Then second is the corruption, right? So political intervention, corruption. These are the two major reasons why Sarfacy Act did not work well. Why? Because again, if you see the bank, if let's say the bank, so what is the process in case of Sarfacy? So I'll discuss briefly about the process also. So step one, the loan is being extended, right? So the loan is being extended to the borrower, and it is extended by the banks and the financial institutions. The banks and the financial institutions, they have extended the loan. Step 2, the borrower will default, right? Now the borrower defaults. So as soon as the borrower default, there is no problem. But after default, the account of borrower should become a NPA, that is a non-performing asset. So as soon as the default happens, it does not become a NPA. To become NPA, there is certain time period which you need to wait, right? After that, only the account becomes NPA. So the account of borrower will become NPA, that is non-performing asset. So once the account of the borrower becomes non-performing asset, here is when now you can say the Sarfacy is going to start, or rather the actions under Sarfacy will start. I'm not talking about the securitization activity. I'm only talking about the recovery tool, how the recovery tool is going to take place. So now you can say the banks and the financial institutions can take action under the SARFAESI for recovery. How it is recovered, which action is taken, we'll study about all those things, but this is the process. So this is for the recovery. Then sir, what about this first activity which you mentioned, securitization activity? So we'll study that. Now if you see the first activity, so under SARFAESI there are three activities. Under the SARFAESI Act there are three activities. The first activity is the securitization activity. So what happens in case of securitization activity? The bank, and just understand when I've written the word bank, just understand I'm talking about the financial institutions also. So bank is going to transfer the account of borrower to a special purpose vehicle which is called as the asset reconstruction company, and the asset reconstruction company will issue security receipts to the qualified investors or to the qualified buyers. Okay, this way the money is raised from the qualified buyers, it comes back to ARC, and then again it comes back to the bank. So technically the bank is going to give money to the borrower will provide some security. Based on that security, the security receipts will be issued. So this is the first activity which is there in the securitization activity. The second activity which is there in SARFAESI is called as the reconstruction of financial asset. Reconstruction of the financial asset. Now, what is reconstruction of financial assets? Here, basically, you can say the bank is going to restructure the loan. So there are various provisions which are given, right? Or there are various recourse which has been given. You can say like extension of the loan, right? Extension of the loan repayment. Then you can say even conversion of loan into equity, or you can say waive off, etc. There are various tools which are given here. Then you have the third route, which is called as the enforcement of security interest. Enforcement of security interest, where you actually take the control over the borrower. This is the ultimate recovery tool. So these are the three different activities. Now let's say the bank wants to do enforcement of security interest, right? Let's say the bank wants to take control over the assets of the borrower. What is going to happen? There will be some official of the bank who is going to inform the borrower that bank is going to take so and so action, so please remove that asset or please sell this asset. So this way the assets used to get siphoned, so there used to be a delay. Similarly, political intervention. So just understand, let's say there is a secured borrower, a big corporate group, right, affiliated to one of the ruling party. Now, when the bank is supposed to take action under SARFAESI, the political party will speak to the heads of the banks that don't take action as of now. If it's a PSU, again, the question is wrong. Question is wrong in the sense there is no point of making a request. They will straight away say don't take action. And if it is, let's say, a private sector bank, so there will be a request made that don't take these actions, you'll in return things will be fine for you. We will provide you also the benefit. So there were political interventions. Because of this, the SARFAESI Act never worked out so well. So that's where I say the SARFAESI didn't work well, and we have the IBC right now, which is not a recovery tool. So just remember SARFAESI, right? SARFAESI is a recovery tool. Just understand. This can be one of the exam question. SARFAESI is a recovery tool. But if you talk about IBC, IBC is not a recovery tool. IBC is a resolution tool. IBC ensures that the assets or the business of the corporate debtor of the borrower, it remains, it continues, right? So it is not for the recovery. But SARFAESI doesn't talk about the business. SARFAESI just says that बैंक का पैसा recover हो जाना चाहिए. If the assets or if the money of the bank is being recovered,
Hello?
yes, then there is no problem. If the assets, if the bank does its recovery, there will be no problem. And it doesn't care much about the assets. But IBC is not like that. IBC just don't take care. So that's the reason you have the committee of creditor and collectively they decide. So irrespective, a financial creditor or a corporate operational creditor has filed a application, but ultimately the decision is taken by majority of the creditors of the company, right? And here it does not happen. Here it is straight away the bank will just think about the interest of their loan, their money. They'll not look into the interest of the business of the borrower, right? So just you may get this question that IBC is a resolution tool. It is not a recovery tool. And SARFAESI is a recovery tool now because you don't have to, explain much. It's very self-explanatory now discussing, just briefly discussing this, that how SARFAESI will be done. Now, this SARFAESI Act, as and when any such strong law comes, the first thing that happens is that the particular law is constitutionally challenged, right? Recently, if you see, the Citizenship Amendment Act was constitutionally challenged. Article 370, that was constitutionally challenged. Then the recently the three farm laws, that was constitutionally challenged. So any law which comes, it gets challenged constitutionally, because if anything unconstitutional you can prove in the law, you can make sure that the law is being not is not get notified, and the entire law is again sent back to the parliament, and it will go through the entire process. So same way, SARFAESI was constitutionally challenged, and there were provisions which was so the SARFAESI Act 2002. This was challenged constitutionally, and it was in the case of Mardia Chemicals versus the Union of India. So in this case, bank took action and Mardia Chemicals went to Supreme Court, and they said that this law is unconstitutional. Therefore, the actions which are taken by the bank under this law is what it is also unconstitutional. Supreme Court said that no, this is constitutionally valid. There is no problem in this law. The only thing which was not correct or which was hard for the borrower, hardship on the borrower, that was removed. That was being proposed. Otherwise, this law was, even though it was constitutionally challenged, Supreme Court upheld the validity. It upheld the validity of the law. Now I will tell you this law, this case study, Mardia Chemicals versus the Union of India. I don't know why they don't ask question on this, right? But we will go through this judgment. It is given in the module itself, right? So we'll also read it from the module, because that certainly gives you a gist of the entire law. So once let's finish the entire portion of SARFAESI, then we will read about the Mardia Chemicals case law, because then you will be able to understand it in a much better way. So just in case institute ask you a question, you'll be able to write. Also, SARFAESI, old syllabus or new syllabus, doesn't matter. Please refer it from the new syllabus module only. So from where you will have to study SARFAESI. So one, definitely we will have the Bare Act. Secondly, we will have my class slides, right? And third, you can refer the new syllabus module. Don't refer the old syllabus module, refer the new syllabus module. Why? I will tell you. Content is exactly same, but in the new syllabus module they have made it in precise. Also, in your old syllabus module you have two separate chapters. One is for SARFAESI, another is for DRT. In the new syllabus they have clubbed the two and they have made it as one, because technically at the end what is going to happen, at the end the case will go to DRT only. Now you'll ask, sir, how the case will go to DRT? Because let's say even after taking all these actions the amount is not recovered, then the bank will go to DRT or for recovering of its dues. So we'll see there, right? So this is how we'll start. Like it's the basics of the DRT. Now let's start with the Bare Act. Sorry, I opened the wrong slide. Just 1 minute. Yeah, so this was correct. So this is SARFAESI Act. So till now, any question? Till now, any question?
सर,
Yes.
सिक्योरिटाइजेशन जब होता है तो वो एनपीए हो जाता है या उससे बिफोर का प्रोसेस है ये?
ये उससे बिफोर का प्रोसेस है, बिकॉज हम जब सिक्योरिटाइजेशन को पढ़ेंगे तो आप चेक करना, यू विल रियलाइज कि अगर कोई एनपीए हो गया तो कोई सिक्योरिटाइजेशन एक्टिविटी में एंटर ही क्यों करेगा। आप अगर देखो सिक्योरिटाइजेशन के अंदर क्या हो रहा है, सिक्योरिटाइजेशन में ये जो बैंक है वो बोरोवर के अकाउंट को ट्रांसफर कर रहा है, करेक्ट।
यस
किसको
सर।
ट्रांसफर कर रहा है, एआरसी को। और बदले में
यस।
एआरसी क्या कर रहा है, सिक्योरिटी रिसिप्ट इशू करता है क्वालिफाइड बायर्स को। अब क्वालिफाइड बायर्स एक ऐसे अकाउंट को क्यों परचेज करेंगे या
जो
उसके
एनपीए
सिक्योरिटी
है।
रिसिप्ट को क्यों परचेज करेंगे जो कि एनपीए बन चुका है। सो सिक्योरिटाइजेशन एक्टिविटी के लिए एनपीए होने का जरूरत नहीं है। इवन रिकंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स के लिए भी एनपीए होना जरूरी नहीं है। बट जब हम एनफोर्समेंट ऑफ सिक्योरिटी इंटरेस्ट करेंगे इसके लिए एनपीए होना जरूरी है। टिल द टाइम यू डू
ओके।
नॉट बिकम एनपीए इट डजंट वर्क। ओके।
और सर, ये जो
यस।
ट्रांसफर ऑफ अकाउंट ऑफ बोरोवर होता है वो अकाउंट होता है, मतलब वो जो उसमें सिक्योरिटी इंटरेस्ट रखा रहता है उसकी वजह से होता है ना वो?
हाँ, हम अभी कवर करेंगे इसको, हम अभी
ओके
इसको
सर।
कवर
ओके सर।
करेंगे। सो वंस वी
यस सर।
स्टार्ट विद द सेक्शन 3 तो हम यहाँ पर इसको पूरा डिटेल में कवर करेंगे दैट ये सिक्योरिटाइजेशन का पूरा प्रोसेस कैसे होता है। एंड एग्जाम में अगर मैं बताऊँ तो ये एक मोस्ट कॉमनली आस्क्ड क्वेश्चन है, ये एक वन ऑफ द मोस्ट कॉमनली आस्क्ड क्वेश्चन है, तो हम इसको जरूर से कवर करेंगे।
ओके सर।
Right, let's go to the Bare Act right now. Right, Bare Act is just a small part, it's 38 pages, but हमें यहाँ पे कुछ 25 पेजेस के आसपास ही पढ़ना है, उससे ज्यादा नहीं पढ़ना। आप मॉड्यूल से इसके बाद जब पढ़ोगे तो you will realize today I will tell you what all the relevant provisions are there which you can refer it from the module also. I'll in fact open the module also here for you. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah, so I'll also open the module here. So we can straight away go to this. So just see the debt recovery and the SARFAESI. Both of them are into one chapter. So we'll start with this. Let me take you to the DRT. Page number, I think it is 160 or something. Just 1 minute. Yeah, 154. Yeah. So just see this. Just see the learning object. It's same. Bare Act and the module is exactly same. So just see this. So the SARFAESI Act gives a detailed provision for the formation and activities of the Asset Securitization Company, that is the Asset Reconstruction Company, ARC, the scope of the activities, capital requirement and everything. So this is one part. Then secondly, a legal mechanism to insulate the assets the act addresses the interest of the securities secured creditor. Okay, so just understand, this act addresses the interest of the secured creditor, like the banks and the financial institutions. Now, several provisions of the act gives directives and power to various institutions to manage the NPS. Right, this is the asset reconstruction company. The act also facilitates for the reconstruction of the financial assets which are acquired while exercising the power of enforcement of security interest, or even for the change of the management or the other powers which are proposed to be conferred on the banks and the financial institutions. Then you also have the DRTs, right? DRT and DRAT, these provisions are there. Now, bank can simultaneously initiate the proceedings under SARFAESI as well. And any person aggrieved on account of the order passed by the DRT may file an appeal to DRAT. So when banks, they take action under SARFAESI, the borrower can go to DRT. Also, if the secured creditor is not able to do the complete recovery under SARFAESI, then they also go to DRT, and then for the balance recovery they go to DRT. Now there is one question which you may get in the exam also, and I have also covered it in my IBC, those ebook that I have shared with you. Can I say that a bank can initiate action both under IBC and SARFAESI? Can the parallel proceedings go? Or if you have taken action under IBC, you cannot proceed against SARFAESI. Or if any action is pending against SARFAESI, then IBC cannot be done. Can the bank initiate action under both the laws? Answer is yes. Answer is yes. Okay. For IBC, what is the requirement? For IBC, the requirement is default. For SARFAESI, what is the requirement? For SARFAESI, the requirement is that the bank is eligible. Right, bank is eligible to take the action. So that's why they say that parallel proceedings can take place. This can be one of the exam question. If you will go through the ebook of IBC that I have shared, you will find it. Okay. Now just see, here it is. So let's see. So they have given how securitization. So all these parts we have already discussed. The statement of object and reasons for SARFAESI Act. This is something I will tell you. Please read it. Whatever we have discussed right now is all given here. Right. Again, like I said yesterday, don't remember the name of the committees and all, but just see, you will understand. So like I mentioned, it first came as an ordinance and then this became a law. And then you will also get the Mardia Chemicals versus the Union of India case, right? So we'll read this at the end. So this is also to be read, but this we will read it collectively at the end, or rather I'll make you all read the provision, entire provision, you'll understand, right? So this is there. So now we are starting with the definitions from here. So the same thing is also there in the Bear Act. Same thing is there in the Bear Act, and the same definitions you have it here. So just see the preamble. If you see securitization, and also I'll tell you which sections are very important for you to know. I will tell you at the beginning also. Section 3 is important. Section 5 is important. Then section 9 is important, right? Even I would say section 6 and 7 is sort of important, but section 9 is extremely important. Then you have the most important section is your section number 13. This is the most important section, right? Also, this is there, and manner of takeover of the management. Just understand, you will also have to read the ESI rules, the relevant provisions of the ESI rules you will have to read. Apart from that, you will have to read one more appeal to the appellate, sorry, application. So this is there. Then right to lodge a caveat. This is an important section. So broadly, these are the important sections. Okay. Then central registry. This entire part can be a basic, right? This can be asked. So overall, this is just the basic. You don't have to understand everything in detail, but you need to know what is there. And then this is all fine. These offenses, penalties, and miscellaneous all are fine. Then also one more, if you see this one, civil court. We will read this one. We will read this one, and we will also read the limitations. One of the question, and yes, the most important. Sorry, not the limitation. This is. This is also frequently asked. This section is also frequently asked, that where all SARFAESI is not applicable. Like even if the bank is the secured creditor and all those provisions are there, still bank cannot take any action. We'll have to read this. So this is all fine, right? So broadly, if you see, we hardly have 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Some 11 sections are there, which is little important for you. Someone needs to mute. Yeah. So some 11 sections are there, which are very, very important, right? Along with this ESI rules. So let's go ahead, and your entire surface will be asked from these 11 sections only. However, we'll also have to read the other sections, because sometimes you get question from the other provisions also, and those provisions will also help you to understand and write your answer well for these 11 sections. So first of all, let's read the preamble, right? Why this is, so this is the objective. Why SARFAESI Act was passed? So this act was passed to regulate the securitization and the reconstruction of the financial assets, and for the enforcement of security interests. So the 3 points, and also to provide for a central database for the security interest which is created on the property and for the matters connected therewith. Now, if you see, this extends to whole of India. Now just see, you have some definitions. One is the appellate tribunal. So the appellate tribunal is the debt recovery appellate tribunal. The appellate tribunal is the DRAT. Now, if you see, you have the definition of asset reconstruction. So what is asset reconstruction? In case of asset reconstruction, so this is basically acquisition by any asset reconstruction company of any right or interest of any bank or financial institutions in any financial assistance for the purpose of realization of such financial assistance. So basically, when the bank transfers the account of the borrower to the asset reconstruction company, what basically the bank is doing, it is doing a asset reconstruction activity. Then you have one more definition, which is the definition of asset reconstruction company. So what is an asset reconstruction company? So asset reconstruction company is a company. This company secondly is registered with the Reserve Bank of India, right, under section 3 of the SARFAESI Act. And what is the purpose? The purpose for carrying on the business of asset reconstruction and securitization, or both. So as I mentioned earlier, you had two different companies. One was reconstruction company, the other was securitization company, and now we have only one company which can do both, and it is called as the asset reconstruction company, which will carry on the business of both asset reconstruction and securitization. Sometimes these two definitions are also asked, right? So these two definitions are important, and I'll tell you from SARFAESI they ask definitions also, right? So I'll tell you what all definitions are there. Then you have the definition of the bank, banking company. This is absolutely fine. Then board is going to be the Securities Exchange Board of India. Now see the definition of borrower. Now, borrower definition, no one is going to ask you, but just understand borrower means any person. So this is important. So it doesn't matter whether It's the company who has taken the loan or it's the individual. So can a bank send you a notice under SARFAESI? Can a bank send you a notice under SARFAESI? You being an individual? Can the bank send you a notice under SARFAESI?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you have taken a personal loan. Let's say you have taken a loan for the construction of your farmhouse and you have defaulted. Your account has become a NPA. Can bank send you a notice under SARFAESI? Can the bank send you the notice under
Yes,
SARFAESI?
sir.
Taking into consideration all the other factors are met. The eligibility and everything is met. Can the bank do so? Answer is absolutely yes. It doesn't matter. Okay, now let's say I have given you the loan and you have defaulted. Okay, so Sridevi ji is saying no security interest. Sridevi ji, again, as I mentioned, the question, I'm saying that all other eligibility criteria are met, which also included the security interest. So the security interest is created. So can the notice be sent? Answer is yes. But let's say I have given you the loan, right? I have given you the loan for the construction of a farmhouse, same purpose. You have defaulted. Now, can I send notice under SARFAESI to you?
No, sir.
Why?
Because you are not a financial institution or bank.
So basically you have to be a bank or a financial institution. Only then you will be eligible to send the notice under SARFAESI, and only then you will be called as the borrower under SARFAESI. So this is there. So now if you read the definition of the borrower, just see borrower means any person who has been granted the financial assistance by any bank or financial institution, or who has given any guarantee or created any mortgage pledge as security for that financial assistance granted by the bank or the financial institution, and it also includes a person who becomes the borrower of the asset reconstruction company consequent upon the acquisition by it or any right or interest of the bank or financial institution in relation to such financial assistance. Now, bank has given the loan to you. Okay, bank has given the loan to you. So bank can take action against the borrower. Okay, what if the account of the borrower is transferred to the asset reconstruction company? Now, who can take the action? Is it the bank or the asset reconstruction company or both?
जब बैंक एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनी को दे देगा वो सिक्योरिटी इंटरेस्ट, तब उसके बाद वो एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनी
Correct.
करेगी.
Correct. Astha ji, correct. Bilkul, correct. Even Sri Devi ji has answered asset reconstruction company in the comment section. So this is correct. So basically an asset reconstruction company, okay, can take the action. Now technically, who has given the loan? ARC or the bank? Loan किसने दिया?
बैंक.
तो टेक्निकली आप बोरोवर किसके हुए? बैंक के हुए, है कि नहीं?
बैंक. यस.
लेकिन अगर आप डेफिनेशन को पढ़ोगे, डेफिनेशन सेज it includes the person who becomes the borrower of the asset reconstruction company. And how do you become the borrower of asset reconstruction company? Because the asset reconstruction company has acquired your account from the lender bank. Okay, so just understand this part. Then you have something called as central registry. So this is basically a registry which is set up. So we'll study about this. Company is fine, corresponding new bank is fine. Debt is basically the same as defined in the RDDBFI Bank Act, and then any unpaid portion. So just understand any unpaid portion. So any amount which is not paid, that is a debt, borrowing. So this is fine. No one is going to ask you the definition of debt here. Though this part is being asked, when we will study this act, we'll cover it there. Then you have the debt recovery tribunal, right? Then you have debt securities, and then you have default. Default is fine. Default means any debt which is not paid. And then the classification of the account of the borrower is done as NPA. Only then you can say it's a default. So just see, default means non-payment of any debt or any amount payable by the borrower to any secured creditor, consequent upon which the account of such borrower is classified as a non-performing asset in the books of the secured creditor, or the non-payment of the debt or any other amount payable by the borrower with respect to the debt security. So you also have the debt securities after the notice of 90 days demanding the payment for dues served upon the borrower by the debenture trustee or any other authority in whose favor the security interest is created for the benefit of the debt security. So ultimately, in both the cases, you have to become a NPA. So here you become NPA. Here you do not become NPA. You are not classified as NPA. But again, you have to serve the demand notice of 90 days. After that, you become a defaulter. So to classify a account as NPA, what happens? So as soon as you have, let's say there is a EMI. Okay, there is a monthly EMI which you have to pay, and your EMI runs up to, let's presume your monthly EMI is 5 lakh rupees. Okay, so you are paying this, you have to pay this 5 lakh rupees. Now let's say you defaulted in the month of April, you defaulted, right? In the month of May also you defaulted. Will it be called as a default? Answer is no, because to become a NPA, your account to become an NPA, it should be, the default should be 90 days from the default. Only then you become a NPA. So just understand, from the due date, I'll explain you. I was supposed to cover this later, but to understand this, it is important. So just understand, how do you become NPA? So here I say there is a borrower, right? So borrower has to make the payment, right? So monthly payment or whatever the payment is to be made. So borrower has to make the payment on the due date. अभी ड्यू डेट वाले दिन बोरोवर ने पेमेंट नहीं किया. जस्ट अंडरस्टैंड, यहां पर उसने डिफॉल्ट कर दिया. He has defaulted, right? So after this default, within 90 days, if the borrower repays the money, is not an NPA. But after 90 days, the borrower's account will be classified as NPA. So technically, if you see, once you default, okay, once you default, you have been given 90 days time period, right? So as per SARFAESI, this is not a default. As per SARFAESI, this is not a default. As per SARFAESI, you become a default, or default has happened when the account of the borrower has become a NPA. आपको ये समझ में आया डिफॉल्ट का डेफिनेशन? डिफॉल्ट का डेफिनेशन समझ में आया? आप एक्चुअल में जब डिफॉल्ट करते हो, then it is not considered as default. It is considered as default when the account becomes the NPA. Okay, guys, this is clear.
Yes, sir.
From now on, you are a NPA. You are not a NPA here. जब आपने डिफॉल्ट किया तब से, ये आपको समझा? Should I take this again with an example? Should I take this with an example? देखो, जैसे एक example आप ले लो. Let's say the due date. The due date was, let's presume, 1st July 2021, right? Borrower did not paid the dues on the due date. Now you need to answer, when will he or she be classified as NPA. When will the person be classified as NPA? Option A, 1st July 2021, or option B, after 90 days from 1st July 2021. So this is 31 days of July, 31 days of August. So 90 minus 31 minus 31. So this is 28th September. So when will the account be classified as a NPA? It is on 28th of September. Okay. So when will you say the default has taken place as per SARFAESI? So this will be classified as the date of default as per the SARFAESI Act. Okay. Is this clear? Is this clear? Is this clear? What if before 28th of, what if the borrower repays the money in the month of August? Can the account of the borrower be then classified as NPA? Answer is no. Correct. Correct, Mansi. Mansi Soni. Right? Correct. So if the borrower has paid, correct, Sridevi ji. If the borrower has repaid before the 90 days, within that 90 days time period, then the account will not be classified as a non-performing asset. Okay. So let's go ahead here. Right? Absolutely. If paid, not classified as NPA. Correct, Ruchira. So same thing, 90 days time period is given here also, and 90 days time period is given here also. Then you have the definition of financial assistance. So financial assistance, just see, financial assistance means a loan or advance granted or any debentures or bonds subscribed or any guarantee given or letter of credit established or any other credit extended. Now just understand this word. They have used any other credit. Just see this. They have used the word any other credit facility which is extended. Now, don't you think everything gets covered here in the definition of financial assistance? So if a bank or the financial institution has purchased the debentures of the company, can you say the bank has provided financial assistance or the financial institution has provided the financial assistance? Can I say so? If the bank has purchased the debentures of a company, can you say the bank has provided financial assistance?
Yes, sir.
Right? And just see, who is a borrower? Borrower means any person who has been granted financial assistance. Now, can you understand the definition, how it gets correlated? And then you have the definition of the default where the word borrower is used. आप ये समझ रहे हो एक वर्ड दूसरे वर्ड से कैसे कनेक्टेड है? राइट? आप तब तक डिफॉल्ट नहीं कर सकते जब तक आप बोरोवर नहीं हो और जब तक आपका अकाउंट एनपीए नहीं बना. बोरोवर बनने के लिए आपको क्या जरूरत है? बोरोवर बनने के लिए यू शुड बी ग्रांटेड सम फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंस. एंड व्हाट इज फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंस? सो जस्ट सी, एनी क्रेडिट फैसिलिटी व्हिच इज एक्सटेंडेड इज अ फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंस. समझा? Guys, do you understand? And that is the reason the definition of SARFAESI becomes little important, and sometimes they ask this. Now, by the way, if you see, this is the amendment, securitization company and the reconstruction company. Now it is only ARC. Now there is no more securitization or asset or the reconstruction company, now you have only ARC which can do both the work, both of securitization as well as the reconstruction. Let's see next. uh, you have the definition of financial asset. So financial asset, just understand, it means a debt or a receivable and also includes any claim, right, to any debt or receivable part thereof, whether secured or unsecured. So just understand, SARFAESI is for both secured as well as unsecured creditor, but then unsecured creditor do not have many options. Unsecured creditor do not have many options. Like unsecured creditor cannot do securitization activity. An unsecured creditor cannot enforce the security interest. But yes, unsecured creditor can do the reconstruction of financial asset. Usually this is the question I leave it in suspense for the student and I take it in the last lecture of SARFAESI, but I just covered it today. So just understand, unsecured creditor can do only the RAFA activity. If it's if it's a secured creditor, they can do all the three activities. Okay. Now see, thereafter we have, in case of financial assistance, any debt or receivables, any mortgage charge hypothecation, right? Any right or interest in the security, whether in full or in part, right? Any beneficial interest in the property, whether movable, immovable. And then again you have, if you have taken any tangible asset, for that and for intangible asset, any credit which has been extended. So this is the financial asset definition. And at last, if you see any other financial assistance. So what would have their fathers gone if they would have just written this? Financial assistance means debt or receivable and includes financial assistance, because ultimately if you see financial assistance covers any other credit facility, it would have been very simpler. The definition would have been very simpler, but still they have added it, and also they have amended and added two more clauses. Fine. If that is the case, we are also strong enough to understand this. So just understand, sometimes they can ask you the definition of financial asset also. Thereafter, you have the financial institutions. So the public financial institutions, then the institutions which are specified under the RDDBI FI Bank, then IFC, debenture trustees. Now, debenture trustee is also a financial institution. So this is a major amendment which was done. And then the asset reconstruction company, right? Whether acting as the managing a trust created for the purpose of securitization or asset reconstruction, as the case may be, and any other institution. Then you have the definition of financial lease. This is fine. Then you have the definition hypothecation, fine, negotiable instrument, non-performing asset. This you will also cover it from the slide, right? Towards the end, I'll cover it. Important question for the exam. A 4-mark question. What is NPA? So non-performing asset means the asset or the account of the borrower, which is classified by the bank or the financial institution as substandard or doubtful or loss asset. And in case of the bank and the financial institution, so basically as per the guidelines which are issued by the Reserve Bank of India or any such authority. So what happens if I just discuss it here only? So just see, as soon as the default has happened, the account of the borrower has become an NPA, but it is not that straight away you become NPA. So just see again, default plus 90 days. The account is not NPA, but after this, the account is classified as NPA. Now, up to 1 year. So till here, the account is called as the standard asset. Up to 1 year, sorry, up to from the default till 90 days. And if the person is not defaulted, then, so I'll write it here. If there is no default, or if the default has taken place, then from the date of default till 90 days, okay, the account of the borrower will be classified as a standard asset. After that, it will be called as a NPA. Up to 1 year, this account will be called as substandard asset. So basically there are three categories. So this is called as substandard asset. After 1 year, once it has become NPA, this will be called as doubtful asset. This would be called as the doubtful asset. And again, you will have multiple categories depending upon the duration. So doubtful 0 to 1 year, then doubtful 2 to 3 years and 3 years. And then it is classified as loss asset. So at any point of time, you realize that the amount will not be recovered, then it is classified as loss assets. So this is after 3 years. Either after 3 years or any time before, it is classified as loss assets. So these are the three classifications of NPA. So if I say, so as I say, just understand, we say, like, just take example, we say COVID. So we say COVID mild, right? Then we say severe, and then we say critical. All three are COVID patients, but do you think all three are same? All three requires the same kind of treatment? Answer is no. This may require less, this may require high attention, and this may require immediate attention. Correct. So same way, how we have here that NPAs are substandard, NPAs are doubtful, NPAs can also be a loss asset. So there are three categories, but not necessary that the NPA is same. And then loss asset, right? So this is not a very right example to explain, but again, I think this way you will be able to understand it better. Correct? Is this clear? Sometimes we also see that the patient with mild symptom suddenly becomes critical. Otherwise, you'll see this, that the person becomes, first will have mild symptoms, then the person looks like severe, and from here the person looks like critical, right? And then sometimes the person recovers from here, and unfortunately some of them do not recover. Correct. Same way, if you see, and there is no set rule that it will go in the same hierarchy, right? From mild to severe to critical. Sometimes patient with mild also gets critical, immediately they become critical. So same way, if you see, once the person has become a non-performing asset, right? So it's not that the person will first be substandard, then be doubtful, then be lost. Of course the sequence is like this only, but not necessary that the sequence will be like this. Sometimes from substandard straight away the person becomes loss asset. Sometimes after becoming the loss asset, the amount is recovered. Sometimes the patient recovers after mild symptoms, the person recovers. Sometimes after getting severe symptoms, the person recovers. Sometimes after getting critical, the person recovers, right? Same thing goes here. So after becoming substandard, the amount may get recovered. After getting doubtful, the amount may get recovered. After getting loss asset, the amount may get recovered. Or sometimes it may happen that right after substandard, the bank realizes that no, the recovery will not be made. So just make provision for 100% and write off that asset as the loss asset. Guys, clear? Guys, this is clear,
Yes, sir.
right? So just understand these are the three. I'll remove this from the slide only, right? But these are the three symptoms which are there as far as the non-performing assets is concerned, right? So just understand the time duration. So this has been given. So this is as per the Reserve Bank of India. And sometimes this is asked, like I remember in my CA final exam law paper, this was asked for I think 3 or this was asked for 5 marks, non-performing asset. Okay, only the definition. SARFACE is also part of the CA final curriculum. At least in my attempt, it was during that time. So they had straight away asked SARFACE for this. Only this was asked. What is non-performing asset as per SARFACE Act? 5 marks. Okay. Then you have notification. Then you have obligor. So obligor is also definition important. We'll understand these. Then we also have the definition of originator. This is fine. Prescribed. Then property is like all immovable, movable, tangible, intangible, everything. Then you have the definition of qualified buyer. So though they haven't asked this question, but I still feel qualified buyer definition is important. Now just understand, don't get confused with this definition. This is qualified buyer and this is not qualified institutional buyer. So the one that you have studied in your corporate funding, or if you have studied this in your securities law, right? There is different. The qualified institutional buyer is different. This is different, though it also includes qualified institutional buyer, but qualified buyer, the definition is different. You cannot say qualified buyer means same as qualified institutional buyer. So just see, it means a financial institution, insurance company, bank, state financial corporation, state industrial development corporation, then the trustee or the asset reconstruction company which has been granted the certificate, right? And then any asset management company. So all these are basically qualified institutional buyers only if you see the definition of SEBI. Then again, of the mutual fund, then also the foreign institutional investors, right? Or any category of non-institutional investors as may be specified by the Reserve Bank of India or any other body corporate as may be specified by the board. This will be what? This will be the qualified buyer. Then the definition of registrar of companies, you have the definition of Reserve Bank, then you have scheme. Scheme you will just understand, not relevant for your exam. But when the qualified institutional, when the qualified buyers are being issued the security receipts, they are issued like a scheme, right? Under a scheme. Like how do you have mutual fund different schemes? Same way it is there. Then you have the definition of securitization. So just understand what is securitization. Securitization means acquisition of financial assets by any asset reconstruction company from the originator, whether by raising of funds by such asset reconstruction company from qualified buyer by issue of security receipts representing undivided interest in the financial assets or otherwise. So next that we are going to discuss is securitization only. So I'm not discussing it right now. Then you also have the definition of security. By the way, this definition is also important for your exam. And then you have the security agreement. So the agreement, which is again, when the borrower borrows, right? So it's an agreement or an instrument or any other document or the arrangement which the security interest is created, by which the security interest is created in favor of the secured creditor. So that is security agreement. Who is a secured creditor or what is a secured asset? Secured asset is the one on which security interest is created. And who is a secured creditor? So you have a list who is a secured creditor. So this is fine. Then secured debt, security interest, and then you have the definition of security receipts, which will be issued by the asset reconstruction company to the qualified buyers. Okay. So this definition is also important. So just understand these are the receipts, security receipts, which are issued by the asset reconstruction company to the qualified buyer pursuant to a scheme which evidences what undivided rights or title or interest in the financial assets involved in the securitization. Okay. Then you have the sponsor. So this is fine. Absolutely. Who holds 10% or more paid up capital in the asset reconstruction company. And this is there. And if any word which is being used here and not defined, you have to refer the Contract Act, Transfer of Property Act, Companies Act, and the SEBI Act. So these are the definitions. Are definitions clear to you? Are definitions clear to you? अभी थोड़ा थोड़ा समझ में आ रहा है सिक्योरिटाइजेशन लॉ कैसा होगा. And now we will study the chapter number 2. This is the registration of the asset reconstruction company. Now, before we go ahead and discuss what is asset reconstruction company, I'll have to explain you the process of securitization. So let's understand what is the process of securitization. What happens here? Just understand this. It is very, very important. Exam perspective say, if I say it's very, very important, and just understand what is going to be the sequence here. So आप ये देखो, there is a borrower. Okay, borrower is going to approach the bank for the loan. Bank will extend the loan to the borrower, but bank will ask the borrower that please create, I need some security. So you have the property of the borrower. You have the property of the borrower on which security interest is created in favor of the bank. Okay. So the property, the security interest is created in favor of the bank. Okay. Now, what bank will do? Bank is now going to transfer this account of borrower to a company which is called as the asset reconstruction company. So here the account of borrower will get transferred, or rather I'll put it this way. Now bank is going to transfer the account of the borrower, and when I use the word transfer, assign, anything, all those words get transferred is the transfer, and this will be transferred to the asset reconstruction company. So the security interest which was created in favor of the bank, this gets transferred to the asset reconstruction company. Now technically you can say the asset reconstruction company is the deemed lender. Okay. Now how does it work? Asset reconstruction company will now do the recovery from the borrower. Okay. The asset reconstruction company will now do the recovery from the borrower. Also, it is the same asset reconstruction company. So now the borrower is going to pay the loans EMI to the asset reconstruction company. Now, how does it work for the bank? The asset reconstruction company based on this security interest. Okay. So this is the security interest which is created in the property. Asset reconstruction company is now going to issue security receipts to the qualified buyers. So there will be different schemes, right? So this is qualified buyers one under one scheme. Then they will make another scheme. And then you will have qualified buyers, another set of qualified buyers, right? So you'll have different schemes and this will be done. Now the money will come from these qualified buyers. Okay. These qualified buyers are going to provide money to the asset reconstruction company, and the asset reconstruction company is going to provide the same money to the bank. So technically, a loan which was given for, let's say, 5 years of time period, bank would have received this money after 5 years, but bank has received that money right now only. Okay. Now the borrower is going to pay EMIs to the asset reconstruction company. So let's say the borrower pays the loan at the rate of 18%. The asset reconstruction company will pay interest on these security receipt, they will pay interest, let's presume, at the rate 12%. So what asset reconstruction company is going to gain? The asset reconstruction company is going to make a gain of 6% interest. So how does it favor bank? Bank can now give this same money to another borrower. Do you understand how does the securitization process work? Do you understand? Is this clear? ये समझा आप लोगों को कैसे सिक्योरिटाइजेशन का प्रोसेस पूरा वर्क करेगा?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mansi, Ruchira, Sridevi ji, is it clear? Is this part clear? I will also write it in step by step. Step 1, step 2, step 3. In step wise also I'll write it, but is this clear? Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
मेरे को कंफ्यूजन है, जब एनपीए हो जाता है कोई
Mhm.
भी नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट, तो
Mhm.
वो जो उसकी प्रॉपर्टी है उससे क्यों नहीं रिकवर करते, वो एनपीए क्यों बोलते हैं उसको?
उसको एनपीए इसलिए बोलते हैं, आप देखो आपने एक एसी खरीदा, ठीक है, अभी गर्मी बहुत हो
यस,
गया है मुंबई में, ह्यूमिडिटी भी बहुत है, आपने एक एसी परचेज किया। एसी का क्या यूज है?
ऐसी ठंड मतलब गर्मी में राहत देगा वो।
गर्मी से राहत देगा। कैसे देगा?
हाँ,
क्योंकि वो ठंडक पहुंचाएगा, ह्यूमिडिटी को
हाँ,
निकाल के बाहर रख देगा, तो रूम आपका एक नॉर्मल टेम्परेचर आपका मेंटेन रहेगा बिना ह्यूमिडिटी के। सो दिस इज द पर्पस ऑफ द एसी, एंड एसी इज योर एसेट ऑल्सो, करेक्ट?
यस सर,
Okay. Now the objective of AC is to provide you cool and a humid free environment in the house, correct?
यस,
So when AC is doing this work, you will say AC is a performing asset. But when AC does not do this, then what will you say?
नॉन परफॉर्मिंग।
AC is non-performing, correct?
यस,
Same thing. Bank has given loan to the borrower. Now this is a financial asset for the bank. Now this asset, what is the purpose of this asset? To provide income, to provide interest to the bank. Yes or no?
यस सर,
So till the time the borrower pays interest, it is absolutely fine. If the borrower do not pay the interest, then the bank will say this financial asset is a non-performing asset. Why? Because it is not doing what it is supposed to do. That is provide me interest in whatever time period which was decided.
सर
Clear?
जब वो उसको
Hmm.
एनपीए बोल देते हैं तो उनके पास उनके बिहाफ में प्रॉपर्टी तो होती है ना?
करेक्ट, करेक्ट। तो एसेट तो आज भी आपके पास है ना। आपका एसी खराब हो गया, इसका मतलब ये थोड़ी ना कि वो जंक में अब आप उसको किसी कबाड़ी वाले को बेच दोगे। आ रहा है आपको समझ
ओके
में?
सर,
एसी इज नॉट
मतलब उसकी
परफॉर्मिंग।
वैल्यू कम हो जाती है।
हाँ, आप ये बोल सकते हो एसी का वैल्यू कम हो गया, और यू कैन से एसी में कुछ ऐसा मेजर प्रॉब्लम आ गया है, नाउ द एसी नीड्स टू बी रिपेयर्ड और द एसी नीड्स टू बी रिप्लेस्ड, वट एवर एज द केस में बी, क्वाइट पॉसिबल the AC just requires a basic servicing. After servicing, the AC is going to work well. Quite possible
ओके,
the compressor is gone, so you have to replace the compressor. Okay. Quite possible the gas is not there, so you have to refill the gas. So there can be anything. Ultimately, what it is supposed to do, it is not doing that. Hence, we call this as a non-performing asset. So it's not
तो
that the asset is not there. The asset is there, but it is not doing what it is supposed to do.
तो उसको नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट इस बिहाफ में बोलते हैं कि उन्होंने सिक्योरिटी इंटरेस्ट पे नहीं किया है, तो
हाँ, जो आपको जो ईएमआई पे करना था, जो
वो
इंटरेस्ट
आपने
पे करना
नहीं
था,
दिया है।
वो आपने पे नहीं किया।
ओके
हालांकि
सर,
आप अभी भी एसेट हो, इसका ये मतलब नहीं आप एसेट नहीं हो, अभी भी आप एक एसेट ही हो, बट आप परफॉर्म नहीं कर रहे। अब जो परफॉर्म नहीं
ओके,
कर रहे, उसमें मैंने आपको बताया डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द सिवियरिटी, वी विल डिसाइड वेदर द एसेट इज अ सबस्टैंडर्ड एनपीए or it's a non doubtful asset or it's a loss asset. Okay.
लॉस एसेट हो जाता है तब फिर वो मतलब वह जो मतलब बैंक्स होती हैं तब फिर वो उसके
नहीं,
मनी को वो
नहीं,
कर
मनी
सकती है।
रिकवरी आप सब स्टैंडर्ड से ही कर सकते हो। मुझे एक बात बताओ, एसी
ओके।
अगर ठंडा नहीं कर रहा तो आप उसको
ओके।
रिपेयरिंग कब करवाओगे? जब एसी पूरी तरह से बंद हो जाता है, या जब आपको पहला सिम्टम दिखने लगता है कि हाँ यार ये एसी काम नहीं कर रहा।
काम नहीं कर रहे हैं जो।
कई बार होता है एसी ठंडा नहीं कर रहा होता, हम क्या इमिडिएटली वहां पे बुलाते हैं?
नो सर।
हम क्या बोलते हैं, क्या पता आज गर्मी ज्यादा होगी, क्या पता हो
इसलिए
सकता है
हाँ।
खिड़की खुला रह गया हो। करेक्ट। तो उसकी वजह से एसी शायद वर्क, क्या पता घर में ज्यादा लोग हो इसलिए एसी इतना कूलिंग फटाफट नहीं किया। So
ओके।
anything can be. So same way, as soon as the default takes place, we don't call it immediately as a non-performing asset. We don't immediately classify the asset of the borrower as substandard asset. We give them 90 days time period. If during these 90 days time period the amount is not received, then we say that yes, this asset is now
नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट।
non-performing asset. And then we go ahead and we classify it as substandard or doubtful or loss.
ओके।
Right?
ओके सर, थैंक यू।
राइट। सो ये आपका लॉजिक है। हाँ, रिकवरी करने के लिए फिर सब स्टैंडर्ड के बाद से आप रिकवरी करने के लिए जा सकते हो, दैट यस दिस इज अ एनपीए, नाउ आई नीड टू डू द रिकवरी। सो सेम थिंग अगर आप यहाँ पे देखो, मैंने इधर भी यही समझाया था। देखो, स्टेप 1 लोन इज एक्सटेंडेड, स्टेप 2 borrower has defaulted, step 3 the account of the borrower has now become a NPA. Now the bank and financial institution will take the action. Now since you have also read the sections and all, now the action will be taken under section 13. Okay.
ओके सर।
So ये आपका प्रोविजन है। So for securitization, what is going to be the sequence? We will have step 1 where the loan is, or rather if you can use a better word, can there be a better word for loan?
फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंट।
फैंटास्टिक। अब आया आपको डिफरेंस समझ में आस्था जी, हमें लैंग्वेज को कैसे चेंज करना है? अदर्स, you cleared? Instead of writing loan, if you use the word financial assistance, this shows that you have read the law. So financial assistance is extended to the borrower. What does the borrower do? What does the borrower do? Borrower will create,
सिक्योरिटी इंटरेस्ट।
correct, security interest in favor of the bank or the financial institution to secure the फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंस। तो जो भी आपको लोन मिला है उसको ये यहाँ पे सिक्योर कर देगा। देन यू हैव स्टेप 3। व्हाट विल हैपन इन स्टेप 3? द बैंक, करेक्ट बोलिए।
बैंक क्रिएट्स एआरसी।
बैंक विल नॉट क्रिएट एआरसी, बैंक
ओके।
इज गोइंग टू ट्रांसफर
गोइंग टू ट्रांसफर द सिक्योर
अकाउंट ऑफ द बोरोवर,
अकाउंट ऑफ द बोरोवर।
राइट, द अकाउंट ऑफ द बोरोवर टू द एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनी। This makes, so now you can say this makes asset reconstruction company as deemed lender, and asset reconstruction company can now do the recovery and receive the annual cash flows, or rather it can receive the cash flows. Annual भी नहीं बोलते, it can receive the cash flows. Okay, make sense? Now what ARC is going to do?
ARC
Yes, now what ARC is going to do?
ARC सिक्योरिटी रिसिप्ट इशू करेंगे वो.
Right, as per the scheme. So ARC will formulate a separate scheme and it is going to issue security receipts
टू क्वालिफाइड बायर.
to qualified buyers. Right, now step 5, the amount which is realized by issuing security receipt from the qualified buyer, this will be given to the
टू द बैंक.
bank, right? So amount received from the issue of security receipts to the qualified buyer will be given to the bank. Correct? What else? इसके बाद क्या होगा? इसके बाद क्या होगा?
कि जो क्वालिफाइड बायर से जो मनी.
नहीं, क्वालिफाइड बायर से या बोरोवर से? Proceeds received from
बायर्स.
borrower. Buyer नहीं.
बोरोवर्स.
Proceed
हाँ,
received from
बोरोवर्स.
borrower by the ARC will be utilized to pay
टू पे क्वालिफाइड बायर.
the dues, and this includes both principal as well as the interest amount to the qualified buyer. Okay, guys, this is clear. And all this asset reconstruction company do for the commission. So ARC makes money via commission in this entire securitization process. Okay, is this clear? Is this clear?
सर, तो फिर एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन और सिक्योरिटाइजेशन एक ही चीज हो गई ना?
नहीं, एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन और सिक्योरिटाइजेशन में डिफरेंस है. देखो, अगर आप एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन का डेफिनेशन देखो और सिक्योरिटाइजेशन का डेफिनेशन देखो, इफ यू सी द डेफिनेशन ऑफ सिक्योरिटाइजेशन हियर, yes, so securitization means the acquisition of financial assets by any company, right? Asset reconstruction company from the originator, that is the bank, whether by raising the funds by such ARC from the qualified buyer by issue of security receipts representing undivided financial assistance, financial asset or otherwise. तो यहाँ पे acquisition of assets आ रहा है, और asset reconstruction में अगर आप देखोगे, the purpose of asset reconstruction is no doubt acquisition of the financial asset, right? But this is for the purpose of realization. So जो purpose है वो दोनों अलग है.
और सिक्योरिटाइजेशन वो शुरू से लेके आखिरी तक का प्रोसेस होगा, और एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन में जब वो बैंक से एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनी के पास आता है तब से
तो
वो,
आप इसको ऐसे बोल सकते
हाँ,
हो, ये जो प्रोसेस है ये
होल
वाला,
प्रोसेस इज सिक्योरिटाइजेशन।
rather you can say this process is securitization.
ओके
एंड जब ये आप सिक्योरिटी रिसिप्ट्स को इशू कर रहे हो, दिस
ओके
इज
सर।
सिक्योरिटाइजेशन, दिस इज एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन.
ओके
ओके,
ओके।
सो ये आपके पास पूरा हुआ. एंड यू कैन ऑल्सो राइट अ एग्जाम्पल like this, that you have the borrower is going to pay interest at the rate 18% to the bank, or you can say on behalf of bank to the asset reconstruction company, and the asset reconstruction company will pay a lower interest, let's say at the rate 12% to the qualified buyers. So if you see for bank or asset reconstruction company, they are going to receive 18% and they are going to pay 12% interest. In return, 6% is their return. Okay. Now the securitization process is clear. If this question is asked in the exam, please make a diagram. Okay, not this clumsy. This is a very clumsy diagram, but you can make a diagram and you can write step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So these 6 steps you can write it this way. Let's say you can make this. Let's presume there is borrower, then there is bank, then there is asset reconstruction company, and then there is qualified buyer. So step 1. So this is the step 1. Financial assistance is extended to the borrower. So you can write it this way. So this is step 1. Then step 2, borrower creates security interest. So let's say here there is the property, or you don't even have to mention the property. It is understood. So step 2, borrower creates the security interest. What is step 3? Bank transfer the account to the ARC. So this way you can write, this is your step 3. Then what is step 4? ARC will formulate a scheme and issue it the qualified receipts, the security receipts to the qualified buyer. So this is your step 4. Then the qualified buyers pay the money to the asset reconstruction company, and that is again given to the bank. So this is technically your step 5, and from here till here, this is also step 5. Then you have the borrower is going to make the payment to the asset reconstruction company, which is step 6, and from here the payment is made. So this is also step 6. So this way you can make a diagram. Is this clear? Is this clear?
यस सर।
Right, and then you can mention it through these steps. Okay, or you can write it this way also. Any way you feel comfortable, that you can explain it the best, you can do it. There is no problem. Guys, is this clear? Everyone? Is this clear to everyone? Okay. All right. Then let's go ahead and read the eligibility for the asset reconstruction company. So till now, from your module, if you see, we have only done the definitions, right? We have covered all these definitions here. So see, this is the diagram. Borrower, bank, financial institutions, ARC, qualified buyer. So This is also a diagram, simple diagram which you can make, right? So if you can see, the main objective of the asset reconstruction company is to act as the agent for the bank or the financial institution, right? For the purpose of recovering their dues from the borrowers on the payment of fees or the charges, to act as the manager of the borrower's asset, which is taken over by the bank or by the financial institution, again to act as the receiver for the properties of the banks or the financial institution, and to carry on any ancillary or incidental businesses, again with the prior approval of Reserve Bank of India. So you have to be, you have to take the prior approval of the Reserve Bank of India. Only then you can set up any other business, right? So this is there. So if ARC carries on any other business, then again ARC will cease to continue the business, right? So this is there. So just see section 3. So as per section 3 of the SARFAESI Act, right? Asset reconstruction company, you need two things. One is you need to obtain the certificate of registration. One is this, and another, your net owned fund should not be less than 2 crore. Okay. It should not be less than 2 crore rupees. Two conditions which is to be met. One, it needs to obtain a certificate of registration. So just don't write the word license or something. It needs to be registered. Anyway, if you see the asset reconstruction company, it is a class of NBFC. Okay. This is just a type of NBFC. And what does NBFC need? NBFC do not need license. They just need the registration, and they need to meet the criteria for the net owned fund. So net owned fund of not less than 2 crore rupees or the higher amount as may be specified by the Reserve Bank of India. So at present, RBI has specified 100 crores. So to set up an asset reconstruction company, you need to have a net owned fund of 100 crores. Then this is the part which you can just ignore right now. There is no problem. So the application will be made by the asset reconstruction company. Okay, I am so sorry. I missed two words while I covered the definition. I missed two words. Now, obligor and originator. Okay, now these are the two terms. Now tell me, who is obligor and who is originator? Just read this. Who is obligor and who is
Obligor is borrower
okay?
and originator is a bank.
Bank. Okay, so I'll also put this in your slide. So I had left some space here. Now tell me, if you have to make this diagram, what we can do in the exam, you can write here obligor and originator. And then in bracket, you can write borrower or the bank or the financial institution. So that again altogether gives that impression that you know the provisions well. Okay. So anyway, let's come back to this. So again, it's the same Bear Act that they have copied here. So it's absolutely fine. So irrespective whether you read it from there or here, it's same. So again, every asset reconstruction company will have to make the application to the Reserve Bank of India. The Reserve Bank of India will consider the application for the registration, and after getting satisfied, it will issue. So what are the preconditions? So this can be one of the exam question, that what are the preconditions to set up a ARC? First and foremost, the asset reconstruction company has not incurred loss in any of the 3 preceding financial year. This is the first condition which needs to be fulfilled. Now tell me one thing. Can a newly incorporated company be set up as ARC? Can a newly incorporated company be set up as ARC?
नो सर।
Why?
सर उसके ऊपर भरोसा कैसे करेंगे कि
अरे आस्था जी, हम ऐसे बात नहीं कर सकते कि उस पे भरोसा कैसे करेंगे। हम लॉ के टर्म्स में बात करेंगे।
उसके पास
मैंने आपको एक कंडीशन बताया है that the asset reconstruction company has not incurred losses in any of the 3 preceding financial year based on,
एडिक्वेट अरेंजमेंट होना चाहिए उसके
अरे
पास,
नहीं नहीं
मतलब
नहीं नहीं नहीं, मैं सिर्फ फर्स्ट पॉइंट के बेसिस पे पूछ रहा हूं। ओके, I'll rephrase the question. If the provision says that the ARC should not have any losses in the 3 preceding financial year, does it mean that the company should have losses, the company should have profit in the 3 financial years?
यस।
Yes. एक बार फिर से
एसेट
पढ़िए।
हैज नॉट इनकर्ड लॉसेस।
तो अगर मुझे प्रॉफिट है
प्रॉफिट मेकिंग होगी तो वो कर सकती है,
और अगर वो प्रॉफिट मेकिंग नहीं है तो
तो नहीं कर सकती। मतलब लॉस इनकर्ड कर रहा है तो नहीं कर सकती।
एक मिनट, अगर कोई प्रॉफिट इनकर नहीं कर रहा तो इसका मतलब ये कि वो लॉस इनकर कर रहा
यस।
है। ओके, व्हाट इफ अ कंपनी इज वर्किंग ऑन ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट, नो प्रॉफिट नो लॉस, क्या कंडीशन फुलफिल हो जाएगा?
नॉट इनकर्ड तो ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट में भी वो तो कर सकती है।
ओके, अ न्यूली इनकॉर्पोरेटेड कंपनी कैन इट बी सेटअप एज एआरसी, क्या ये कंडीशन फुलफिल हो जाएगा? अगर मैं एक नए कंपनी को, इफ आई वांट टू सेट अप अ न्यू कंपनी एज एआरसी, will my license be accepted or will it be rejected based on this point A?
हाँ, वो
Answer
तो
is
फिर एक्सेप्ट हो जाएगा।
reject नहीं होगा, वो accept हो जाएगा।
हाँ हाँ।
ठीक है, क्यों?
ओके।
क्योंकि उसके पिछले 3 साल में लॉस नहीं होना चाहिए। सो अ न्यूली इनकॉर्पोरेटेड कंपनी does not have losses in the last 3 years.
पर उसके पास 3 फाइनेंशियल ईयर भी तो नहीं होगा ना,
It
पिछले
is
और
okay.
पिछला।
The condition says that there should not be a losses in the 3 financial year. So there is no losses. Okay.
बट वो प्रीसीडिंग फाइनेंशियल ईयर भी तो नहीं है, वो तो अभी
It
न्यूली
is
इनकॉर्प।
fine. It is fine. Losses है क्या?
नो सर।
लॉसेस नहीं है तो काम खत्म।
ओके सर।
ठीक है, ये थोड़ी था बोला इट शुड बी इन ऑपरेशंस फॉर द 3 फाइनेंशियल ईयर। यहां तो ये
ओके।
बोला हुआ है ना, द कंपनी शुड नॉट हैव इनकर्ड लॉसेस इन द 3 फाइनेंशियल ईयर, सो देयर इज नो लॉस। नो डाउट देयर इज नो फाइनेंशियल ईयर ओनली, but there is no loss. That is more important. Then second, the company has also made adequate arrangements for 2 things. One is for the realization of the financial assets, and second is the company is going to receive or is able to make periodical returns and redeem the respective on the respective due dates the investments which are made by the qualified buyer. So basically the work of a reconstruction company. So the 2 activities which are asset reconstruction company is going to do, one is the asset reconstruction and another is the securitization. So both the activities will be undertaken by the asset reconstruction company. Well, so this has to be mentioned there. And third, that the directions of the asset reconstruction company, the directors, sorry, not the directions, the directors of the asset reconstruction company, they have professional, adequate professional experience in the matters related to finance, securitization, and the reconstruction. Thereafter, any of its director have not been convicted of an offense involving moral turpitude. So just understand there is no cooling off period which is given here. अगर cooling off period मतलब आप ध्यान रखना, there is no cooling off period given here that 2 years, 3 years or whatever. They just say that the directors have not been convicted for any offense in moral turpitude. So if the director is even convicted for the moral turpitude even for one day, the director will get disqualified. Okay. Or if the director is not removed, then the asset reconstruction company has violated the condition. Then we have the sponsor. Who is a sponsor? One who holds 10% or more equity shares in the asset reconstruction company. So the sponsor should be a fit and proper person. So you can say sponsor is kind of promoter of the asset reconstruction company. And then the asset reconstruction company has complied with and is in a position to comply with the prudential norms of the ARC, and it is going to comply with one or more conditions as specified by the Reserve Bank of India. So these are the preconditions which are needed so that a asset reconstruction company can be set up. Again, this can be an important question. What are the preconditions to set up a asset reconstruction company? Okay, guys, clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. Then what is going to happen? The application will be filed by the sponsor. Okay, so the sponsor of the asset reconstruction company is going to file the application to the to the Reserve Bank of India, and Reserve Bank of India, after getting satisfied, it will issue. So Reserve Bank of India will then grant the certificate of registration to that asset reconstruction company. They can now carry on the business of the securitization or asset reconstruction as the conditions which have been imposed. Accordingly, they can do that. And the Reserve Bank of India may also, right? The Reserve Bank of India may also reject the application. However, before rejecting the application, the applicant will be given a reasonable opportunity of being heard. And every asset construction company shall obtain a prior Reserve Bank of India. Okay. Now this section is separately important. This section is separately important. Why? Because this can result in one of the ground for the cancellation of the certificate of registration by the Reserve Bank of India. So what does it say? It says that every asset reconstruction company shall obtain prior approval of the Reserve Bank of India whenever they are planning to do any substantial change in the management, including the appointment of any directors or the managing director or the chief executive officer, or any change in the location of the name registered office, or if there is any change in the name, right? Location of the registered office, or in case of change of a name, this will be substantial. Now tell me one thing, rotation of director. So every time in the annual general meeting, whenever the rotation of director is going to take place, will you have to take approval of Reserve Bank of India? Astaji, you are the director of the ARC. You are getting retired and getting reappointed in the same AGM. Do you need prior approval of RBI?
Yes, sir.
Answer is no,
अच्छा,
because
substantial change बोल रहे हैं.
substantial. So substantial has been defined through the explanation. They say that substantial would be when the management is changed due to the change and transfer of the shares. There is a change in the sponsorship. Okay. So large chunk of shares have been sold by one person to the other, or let's say the amalgamation has taken place, and now the new sponsors are appointing the directors. At that point of time, you will require prior approval of RBI. Got it?
स्पॉन्सरशिप में इफेक्ट होगा तो मतलब उसका.
So substantial change in the management is when the management is being changed due to the change in the sponsorship.
ओके सर.
ठीक है. पहले Aditya Birla Group was the sponsor of one of the ARC. Now Aditya Birla Group has sold their shares to, let's say, Ambani family, and now Ambani family is appointing the directors. So this is substantial. Okay.
ओके सर.
Also, uh, what is the substantial change? Whether the change is substantial or not, The final say will be the Reserve Bank of India. So the decision of the Reserve Bank of India will be the final, whether it is substantial change or not. Okay. So it's always better that whenever there is any change, these kind of change, you have to take prior approval of RBI. Then if you see cancellation of a certificate of registration. So another important question for your exam. So as per section 4, the Reserve Bank of India may cancel the certificate of registration which is granted to Reserve Bank ARC if it ceases to carry on the business of the securitization or asset reconstruction. Just understand there is not word and. You don't have to carry on both the business. Even if you carry one of the business, it's fine. But if you don't carry both of the business, then RBI may cancel. Then if it ceases to hold or receive any investment from qualified buyer, or if it has failed to comply with any of the condition subject to which the certificate of registration was granted, if at any time fails to fulfill the condition referred to under clause A to G of subsection 3 of section 3. So those conditions that we just read, these conditions, the preconditions, okay?
Precondition.
So the preconditions, if you fail to fulfill those, then if you fail to comply with the directions which are issued by the Reserve Bank of India or maintain the accounts which is not in order, right? Or if you fail to submit or offer for inspection the books of accounts, or just see this, if you fail to obtain the prior approval of Reserve Bank of India before you do any substantial change in the management or change in the location of the registered office or the change of name, then in that case the Reserve Bank of India may cancel the registration. Now I just vaguely remember in one of the recent attempt a question was asked on this. Now, I don't know whether it was your paper or it was the solicitor exam paper. I had read one of the question here. So it
नहीं
is
सर, हमारे ही इसमें
आपके
आया
ही
था।
पेपर में आया था, I
या
think, right? So basically the certificate of registration was cancelled, right, by the Reserve Bank of India. So what is to be done? So just see, before cancelling the certificate of registration, right? So basically RBI is going to give a reasonable opportunity of being heard, and then if the certificate of registration is cancelled, sorry, the exam question was on this subsection 2, then the asset reconstruction company, which is aggrieved by the order of the cancellation of certificate of registration, may prefer an appeal within 30 days, right, to the central government. Okay. And before rejecting the appeal, even central government will give you the reasonable opportunity of being heard. Guys, this is clear. Now, even if the certificate of registration is cancelled, okay, even if the certificate of registration is cancelled, it's not that you'll stop working till the time you do not repay to your qualified buyers, to all your qualified buyers, your certificate of registration is going to continue. Okay, your certificate of registration will be valid till the time you do not repay the entire dues to your qualified buyer. But you cannot issue new security receipts till the time you have existing qualified buyers, their payments are pending, you will be having, but you will cease to carry on any new business, right? So an asset reconstruction company which is holding investments of qualified buyers and whose application for the grant of registration has been rejected or the certificate has been cancelled, then notwithstanding such rejection or cancellation, be deemed to be the asset reconstruction company until it repays the entire investments held by it within such period as the Reserve Bank of India directs. Guys, this is clear? Guys, this is clear.
यस सर।
Is this clear? Right. So this is it for our today's lecture. Tomorrow we'll start with section number 5. Okay. And we'll cover the provisions of asset reconstruction. So tomorrow we will cover from section 5 till we'll cover till section 12b. We'll cover not 12b. Basically, we don't need 12b. We need to cover it till 10. So we'll cover this section, and most probably I'll also cover section 13 tomorrow. Okay, so this is what we'll do tomorrow. Just revise whatever we have covered today and just read it till here. Till here you can read the module. Okay, go through, and if there is any doubt, like we do in every session before we start the lecture, we can take the doubts and then we can go ahead with the new topic. Okay, so let's start tomorrow then. Take care. Bye bye.
Take care, sir. Bye bye.